In the hysterical rush to shut down and destroy our economy because of a virus, no one stopped to think about our children and grandchildren. They will be hit hardest by what we are doing, and it's just plain evil. Our job is to protect and sacrifice for the next generation, but over the past century, we have done the exact opposite. We spent the future and left our offspring with unpayable debt and moral collapse. And now, to protect our own worthless lives, we are sacrificing theirs. In this pandemic, we are sacrificing our children, and it's satanic. Welcome to the Shockcast. I'm John Little, recording on a cool Tainan evening on Tuesday, March 30th, 2020. Before going on, hit subscribe and click that bell to receive a notification when the next Shockcast happens. And if you like what you hear, hit that like button. All of that really helps get visibility for Omega Shock and the Shockcast. And if you didn't like it, well, you know what to do. Also, subscribe to the Shock Letter and receive my articles in your inbox at theshockletter.com. You can also find my posts on Facebook and Twitter. I have 2 books that you can read for free for now. They're called When Jacob Returns and Ezekiel's Fire. And believe it or not, there are ways to keep the Shock Letter from going to the spam folder by following certain easy instructions. Oh, and there's a curated list of important articles on this topic in the main article on omegashock.com, and you can find links for all of that below. Now let's get back to today's topic. Why our system must die. The sacrifice of our children. Our duty as parents and grandparents is to sacrifice our lives for our children and grandchildren. It is a burden given to us by God to protect and nourish the younger generation so that they would, in turn, do the same. But as Satan took a strong hold upon our nation, we became horrendously self-centered and narcissistic. And now that a harsher version of the common cold is stalking the streets, we have thrown our children to the wolves. And yes, it really is just a harsher, more serious version of the common cold. But more on that later. No matter how bad you think this virus is, one thing is abundantly clear. It leaves our youngest generations virtually untouched. Very, very few of our children and grandchildren are dying from this disease. And those who do often have comorbidities like diabetes, obesity, heart disease, and the such like. So, did we quarantine the most vulnerable so that our children could keep their lives, their jobs, and their businesses? No. Of course not. We, in our panic to preserve ourselves, chose to sacrifice our kids. We were so terrified of what might happen to what is left of our lives that we didn't even want to experience the smallest risk of infection. So we decided to burn it all down. Take a good look at the video within this tweet. And the text part of it says, hundreds of cars wait to receive food from the Greater Community Food Bank in Duquesne. Collection begins at noon, and they were lined up. The video is very sad. The video within that tweet of a line of cars is unbelievably long. The line is of people in need of food. And this is only the beginning. Yes, this virus can be ugly. Yes, people have died. But the numbers of those who have died do not outweigh the catastrophe that is beginning right now. A catastrophe that we brought upon ourselves. The Great Depression was bad, and the human suffering was terrible. Worse, horrifying fascists sprang out of this terrible time and went on to cause the deaths of over 100 million people. More than 4% of the world's population died as a result of World War II. It was the worst war in the history of the world, and we have forgotten what led up to it. Now that an even greater depression is completely inevitable, we will have an even greater, more destructive world war. And it's my generation and older who are at fault. We did this. Those of us who are 50 and older are directly responsible for bringing the world to our current state of collapse. We did this. We voted for Bill Clinton, Barack Obama, and both George Bushes. We voted for congressmen and senators who gave us foul and evil laws with massive, massive national debt. We allowed our kids to be brainwashed at schools and universities. And as if that wasn't bad enough, we murdered our unborn children by the millions. And those of you outside the U.S. have your own politicians who did the same. We did this. It's our fault. Then to add insult to injury, we now demand that the younger generations lose their jobs and go hungry because of a virus that hurts us, not them. How utterly despicable. How disgusting. We should be ashamed of ourselves. Did anyone stop to think about what will happen when little children don't have enough food to eat? If we, the older generations, get sick and die from this virus, it is only our just reward that we do so. We are at fault, so we should be the ones to suffer, not our children. Yet in our selfishness, we will listen to none of that. The irony is that more and more statistics are coming out confirming the fact that this virus is not as lethal as originally claimed. After this is over, the mortality rate will probably be less than 1%. And don't take my word for it. Here's Dr. Anthony Fauci. Quote, "If one assumes that the number of asymptomatic or minimally symptomatic cases is several times as high as the number of reported cases," which, by the way, I can confirm, "the case fatality rate may be considerably less than 1%. This suggests that the overall clinical consequences of COVID-19 may ultimately be more akin to those of a severe seasonal influenza, which has a case fatality rate of approximately 0.1%, or a pandemic influenza similar to those in 1957 and 1968. Close quote. Dr. Anthony Fauci, COVID-19, Navigating the Uncharted, New England Journal of Medicine. I would never have seen that quote if John Rappaport hadn't put it in his article. Then I wouldn't have seen the article if Charlie W. hadn't sent it to me by email. Thanks, Charlie. And you can read John's article here. Turn the economy back on, even Fauci is confessing. But is anyone going to listen to John Rappaport? Did any of the alt media hoax sites pick this up? Is anyone going to talk about this? Of course not. It's time to stop the madness. It's time to start living our lives like God called us to. It's time to start doing our job as parents and grandparents. Let our kids go back to work. Stop sacrificing our children upon the altar of greed. That's it for this Shotcast. If you appreciated this video, hit like. Then hit subscribe and that little bell. Also leave a comment. I look forward to seeing what you have to say about what was said here. Your input is truly welcome. You can also get my article and updates in your inbox through the Shock Letter at theshockletter.com. And read my books for free, When Jacob Returns and Ezekiel's Fire. They just might save your life.